doing great, babe. How you doing?
Great. Happy Wednesday.
Happy. It doesn't feel like a Wednesday. I don't know why.
You just yawned into the video, so I
Right.
apologize,
That's
YouTube, you
okay.
know?
I love it.
I really wanted to do the listener question.
Okay, I'm ready.
Um, Megan wrote in, do you tell the person next to you on an airplane that you're a therapist or do you lie? And if you lie, what's your fake career? What do you do? I feel like you tell the truth.
I do. I'm honest because I will take every opportunity to promote the business. Any opportunity. I will give a free 8-hour therapy session and just be like, by the way, we have therapists
Located in
located in all
48
states.
states.
So you let me know
Okay.
if you're looking for a therapist.
So I don't say I'm a therapist, though. I say I own a mental health care
Yes.
company.
Yeah, I do that too. Well,
I
I say
don't say I'm a therapist because I don't want them to use me as a therapist.
that was a hard transition to make, going from saying I'm a therapist to,
I still say I'm a therapist, but I
but
don't to a
not to
stranger
people
on a
on a
fucking flight.
plane. Yeah.
No. And even before we had transitioned,
I also don't know if I give off like talk to me vibes when I'm on when I'm on a plane. I feel like you might. That would be my guess, but I'm not
no.
sure.
Well, I'm usually flying with my kid.
Right. So people are
No
just
one's
like,
no one's talking to me. They're like, man, I hope I'm not behind that child.
yeah. Like I don't
They're usually
tend
like, God, I hope that kid isn't screaming the whole flight.
right.
You get on a flight as a parent and you can look at people look at you like, God damn it, there's kids on the plane. And to be fair, when I travel without my kid, I have the same thought.
Yes. Listen, it's the circle of life. I would guess.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't lie. We just don't really open ourselves up to conversation. But I tend to get into a lot of therapeutic conversations with people
Everywhere you go.
everywhere I go. I can't help myself.
Everywhere.
Also, I think I just have no social skills anymore. I think it has turned into me just giving people therapy. People are like, oh, like, how's everything going? I'm like, good. Like, tell me about your deepest trauma. And they're like, I'm sorry, what?
See, I feel like I'm like, no, I'm too therapied out. I
Yeah.
want you to tell me nothing about you.
I don't know. It's like how I feel like I get to know. I obviously don't go for the trauma, but I feel like it's how I get to know people is like getting,
The
you
trauma
know,
comes with it, baby.
exactly. Like eventually we'll get there. It's not the first thing I say, but it's how I get to know people. I don't want to do small talk. It's just not my thing. It gives me
Wait,
nothing and it sucks the life out of me.
you know what's funny is Millie had a field trip last week, and after the field trip, bunch of the parents went to this like ice cream place. Millie was having a very hard time, so I walked her outside to like talk to her to like just get her away from everything, calm her down. When I walked back in, one of the moms was like, "Oh, do you feel a lot of pressure to like be a good mom because you're a therapist, you're like the therapist mom?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "But I do feel that pressure to like not like be an asshole to my husband."
Yes, because we're
I
couples
don't feel it in
therapists.
terms of parenting, but also with parenting, it's so easy for me because I never really lose my shit on Millie.
Right.
I can think of maybe one time
Right.
I like never, just because in general that's how she is, and she wouldn't respond well to that anyway. It wouldn't
Right.
work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You've
All right.
nailed that. But yeah, I think there is a level of pressure. I think that a lot of therapists feel of like, I'm supposed to, I think even with our mental health as individuals, of like, I'm supposed to have it together. I'm supposed to, right? Like, I'm not supposed to struggle with these things, which is why we do our podcast to talk about
Yeah.
like, yes, it's okay.
Yes.
All of the things are okay. But
All the things.
today, and this is, it's a nice tie in actually. Look at that beautiful background you got. It's a
Let
nice
me tell my.
tie-in because I think that what we want to talk about today is information overload and conscious consumption when we're looking at social media, when we're looking at media, um, because it's such a problem, you know?
Like an
I
emergency.
It's an emergency.
Yeah, it's a crisis. I mean, we have an information crisis that's happening for our mental health. So, right, when we talk about it in terms of social media, we are so overloaded with who we should be and what we should be doing and how we should be acting. And just we're also overloaded with what other people are doing And then inevitably, because we're human beings and it's natural, we compare ourselves. And so, how many times have you gotten off of social media and you felt like shit, or you ended up being like a reactive to someone like your partner or your kids
Yes.
or your animal because you have all this shit that you can't even really comprehend?
And you're like, oh, I should, like, your mind starts going off, I should be doing this. I should be doing this. A lot of those things include things that you are not doing, right? The level
Yeah.
of pressure that you start to put on yourself, unnecessary pressure. Like, you may be going about your day perfectly fine, right? Things are going great. You look at social media, there's something that comes up. It's all of a sudden it's something that you are not doing, right? It's, well, you should be doing this with your kid, or you should be
Hmm.
doing this in your relationship, or you're not taking care of yourself if you're not blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden you start to develop this kind of like internal monologue about, oh no, I'm not doing that. Because I'm not doing that, it must mean that I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And so that's why we want to talk about being very conscious when you're looking at social media or media in general, because I think social media is almost built for you to not be conscious.
Yeah, keep scrolling, baby. Give us your money, right? Like, listen, let's be honest. Social media is a business, it's capitalism. It's nice that it can sometimes be very helpful, and sometimes it can. There are lots of folks who are able to connect with people that they don't have around. There are ways that social media are very, very helpful. I get that. It is a business, it's not a social service.
Isn't that interesting that like it's built and makes money off of us not being conscious, right? Like because if you were more conscious or present or making decisions that are driven by you, then maybe you wouldn't buy that random thing on
Yeah.
Instagram that came up with an ad. And listen, guilty, right? Like so
Oh my
guilty of
gosh.
this.
So many good things
So,
I've gotten are from social media. I get
right.
that. You know what's so funny is like when it started, right? Like Live Journal, Zanga, all that stuff, there wasn't ads,
Yeah. And if they were
right?
ads,
And
they were like at the, they were like at the bottom.
yes,
Like
yeah.
it didn't really
And
affect you.
Facebook, and even Facebook at the beginning, you needed a college email address to get
Yeah.
it. It wasn't like you were paying for something, right? I think that's the thing. You think because it's free, you're not paying. Oh, I promise you are.
Yes.
Because if a product is free, that means that you are paying for it.
Yes.
You're the consumer of it. It's free means nothing.
I got something for
Okay.
free yesterday and I know I'm
What
throwing us off topic.
what'd you
And
get for
I
free?
was thinking while you were talking, like, oh no, how am I paying for this?
What'd you get?
Listen, I know that Comcast, we've talked about how difficult Comcast is. I have Comcast. We went through this renovation and we lost one of the like connectors to our cable box. So I went into Comcast and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be fucking terrible. I went in there and they were like, oh, you need a new connector? I was like, yeah. He was like, here. I was like, thank you so much. How much do I owe? He was like, oh, just take it. He was like, just keep being your wonderful self. I was like, oh, damn.
First of all, that person deserves a Google review. Second of all, you did pay for that because you pay for a service every single month. That is not free. That's like when I got into grad school and they mailed me a t-shirt and I was like, oh my God, look at this free t-shirt I got. And my husband was like, that's the most expensive t-shirt you're going to have in your entire life.
Right.
That
But
is a $50,000 fucking t-shirt.
you think that it's free and it's not.
It feels free, but it is not. It
Oof.
never is.
Drove that home.
Okay. Somebody wrote in.
Okay.
I have to start this just because I think it's very funny and this person's funny.
Okay.
Send help. Sometimes I get panic attacks an hour after scrolling Instagram before bed, but those damn cat videos are funny. I don't give a fuck how funny that cat is. Get the fuck off social media. If you are,
This was me. I wrote this in.
I get that cat's funny. I bet that cat is hilarious. Like when that baby panda sneezed, the mom sneezed and the baby panda freaked out. I get it. I love that shit. But if you are having legit panic attacks, if you cannot sleep, if it is affecting your relationship with yourself, with others, it's not working for you. So maybe it means that social media for you is a daytime activity.
Listen, as someone who loves funny cat videos, I can relate to this. And at the same time, it is costing you your mental health completely.
Yeah.
Panic attacks are right? Panic attacks are our brain's signal that like we're in danger, right? Your brain is sending signals to your body that you're in danger.
Yeah.
And so it's almost cyclical in a way because I wonder if it's like, okay, well, I am going to look at these cat videos to comfort me. We look at the, certain videos like that as a coping mechanism, a way of having this like level of comfort, or it distracts us from other things that are maybe causing anxiety or panic. But what happens is you're getting this like quick hit, and then the panic is coming back and it's coming on even stronger. So, as much as the cat videos are fun and they're distracting you, they are also contributing to a level of panic. They're keeping you from being able to maybe address what's underneath the panic attack, like what's causing you all of that anxiety. Um, and then, kind of the stimulation that's happening in your brain, right? It's like reinforcing this level of panic, sending signals to your body that you are in danger somehow. So you can't take away a coping mechanism without replacing it with another coping mechanism. So here's what I would say. Number one, ask yourself, what am I getting from these cat videos? Right? Like, what's it giving to me? It's giving me a distraction. It's giving me a lightness. I'm getting to laugh. Is there anything else that you can give to yourself that gives you that lightness, that gives you that, distraction maybe, but is not sending you back into this panic, right? Maybe it's going for a walk, going to the dog park, checking some doggies out. Uh, Question for you. This is an interlude. Do you think, Emily, that it is creepy going to a dog park without a dog?
I've done it.
I would do it.
I've done that. Me and Liz, my best friend Liz, who lives in DC, before every time I go to DC, we end up in a dog park sitting
Yeah.
there.
It's so fun.
No one has said anything to me like, get that creepy girl out of here yet.
Yes. Like you're still doing it. So that's what I'm saying. Find a dog park. You can go to a cat, like go to the
Cat
SPCA,
cafe.
cat cafe. There are so many ways to get that connection. And then you're grounded, you're in the present moment. I know that might be hard right before bed, but
But
go ahead.
But at night, you can read, you can listen to
Yes.
podcasts, you can listen to music. It's interesting. People always talk shit on screens. Tons of people feel fine watching TV before bed, but feel activated watching social media. It's what works for you. But what I'm saying is your body is giving you a very serious signal that something's not working. It's time to change that.
Yes. Beautiful. Let's see what else we got. How to
How
start
to start
jinx. How to start how to start shifting from using social media as a coping skill to more conscious consumption.
time limits.
Time limits.
Boundaries with everything in life, including social media. One of the best things you can do is creating time limits. Another thing I'd always recommend is like you can do a check-in with yourself before, during, and after, right? So like this is another thing we would do when we talk about like conscious eating. How do I feel before? How hungry am I or how disconnected, right? Like how do I feel during while I'm in the act of something and how do I feel afterwards after I close the app?
Something we love to talk about is practicing a coping mechanism, right? Even when you're not in the moment.
Yes.
And so, something that's really helpful when you're on social media and you want to be more conscious of like how it's affecting you, is to practice this saying to yourself of like, what is this doing for me? Right. And not just during social media, like all of the time with every task that you're doing, everything. What is this doing for me? Right. I'm doing the dishes. This is helping me clean my house. I'm going to feel really good after this. Right. Like, what is this giving to me? What am I getting from this? Right. It doesn't mean that the task is going to be pleasurable, but you could be getting something else from it. Right. You're getting things done. You're accomplishing something. And so to practice that kind of question with yourself of like, what am I getting from this? Is this giving to me? So that you can start to implement that question when you are on social media, right? And I honestly do this with myself as I will say after a while, like, what am I getting from this? Am I still getting what I think I'm going to get from this, right? Sometimes I just want to be distracted. Sometimes I want to look at funny cat videos. Sometimes I need to work on business stuff on social media.
Mhm.
Um, I'm someone who can get really wrapped up in working on business stuff in social media, very wrapped up. I get, because I'm so detail
That
oriented.
reel will be perfect.
Yes, I'm so detail oriented. And I have to ask myself, like, is this still doing what I need it to do? Like, what's the point of this? Is this giving to me? Is this taking from me? What, to be very conscious of like the purpose behind what you're doing. But the only way to do that is to implement that at different times. You don't just do it when you're doing social media, you do it throughout the day with everything that you're doing, right? To just be more conscious and present. What is this giving to me? What am I getting from this?
Not a question, but maybe advice for new moms on all the advice and accounts. Oh my God, it's so overwhelming. Being a new mom, you're so scared. And you're like, someone just tell me what to do. So then you follow all these people that you think are going to tell you what to do. And then you just feel worse. So here is what I would recommend. What if you use it for a certain topic and not for everything? You do not need to follow every account, right? So let's see, like when my daughter was going through some picky eating stuff, I was following Kids Eat in Color. I think it's a great thing. I really like the girl who runs it. But I was becoming sort of obsessed with what she was putting up. So instead of following it, I would open up the page. Very sorry to this person who did not get a follow from me. I would open up the page and I would look for what I needed to and used it as a resource without using it as my full life like guidelines. We have to think about things as a suggestion and a resource and not the ultimate Bible of what we do.
Yes.
And so for any of those things, if you're following something for sleep, for eating, any of that stuff, what is it that I'm really looking for? What do I need out of this? Not do I copy this and make this my entire life and personality?
Someone wrote in, because this connects to this, why is it so easy for us to believe what we see? And the thing I want to highlight is that in order to get views on social media, you have to say things very definitively, right? So
This is the
influencers,
only way to cure your trauma.
right?
Here's how you cure your PTSD in 1 minute.
Yeah. Are you struggling with this? This is what you do to fix
Yes.
this, right? Like you're not going to get views if you say, listen, some people are going to, and this is why we don't get views.
this is why.
The reason why we don't get views is because we refuse to do that. But you don't get views if you say, listen, this is going to work for some people and not for other people. And so we encourage you to do what fits for you and to read more resources, to get more information. Like you get no views when you open up a video like that. And if you've ever seen any accounts that talk about growing your account, they talk about hooks, right? How to hook people in, right? Those hooks are like a psychological mechanism to get you hooked on their video. And those hooks are very definitive. And so this is why we want to put it out there that like people are using these hooks to get you hooked on their videos.
They're using you.
They're using you.
So someone wrote in something we have to talk about, Jen, because we can't not talk about this, is that somebody wrote in the power of culty and problematic Instagram and TikTok therapists with no credentials. Therapist is in quotes. So there is a massive amount of misinformation on social media. And there is a tremendous amount of therapists that are doing some weird shit on the internet to build a business, to build a following, to build their egos, any of these things. We all preside under ethical boards. Here's the issue with any ethical board for therapists. That shit is like in 1982. Like our ethical boards are like they are so not caught up with technology. It's wild. So there is like not boundaries around like what you put out there. Like there's ethical stuff, but like the thing is that like anyone can proclaim that they're a life coach. Anyone can proclaim that they're a healer. Anyone can say that I heal mother wounds. I'm an anxiety coach. If you hear the name coach, some people are credentialed and amazing, and that's great. Other people just call themselves a fucking coach. I can call myself a coach today. And so the reason why this is problematic is one, these people might not have the appropriate training, but I really do think you can teach yourself a lot. But here's why it's really problematic. They have not done self of the therapist work. And self of the therapist work is what allows us to be ethical and take care of clients. It's the shit that I've done my work so I can help you do yours. You know that a client, someone hasn't done their own shit if they're oversharing too much, if they're taking up time in the office with you, if they are telling you about other clients that they have, if they are using like just random one hook lines. Um, and so that's when this becomes a problem, is that you can teach yourself a lot from the internet, but if you have not done the self of the therapist work, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah. And a lot of what is being said in these very short clips, it's not a one size fits all, right? Like that's why therapy is a thing, right? It's tailored uniquely to you. And our society, understandably so, wants a quick fix for what we're going through. We want a quick answer. TikTok, Instagram, it gives that to us, right? It quickly gives that to us of, oh, if I just do this, then this is going to happen.
Yeah.
Um, and so
It's what we call ducks in a row theory, right?
yes,
If I just do this, then it'll be okay. It's like it's magical thinking, it's ducks in a row theory. You see all the time, and it is very, very common. Someone else said about comparing it to diet culture. It's very much like diet culture.
yes.
If you just do this, you're healthy. If you just do this, you lose 10 pounds. That is not accurate for so many people because we are all so incredibly different.
And there is no space when you're getting information through TikTok, Instagram, social media to create second order change. And second order change is a deeper, long lasting, integral change within
Mindset
yourself,
change. It's not
mindset
behavior.
change. It's not behavior, it's not something that happens quickly, which is once again why we believe therapy is so important, to be able to do that deeper work. What are you going to say?
So I say, so I love that you just brought up first and second order change, right? So first order change is very possible on TikTok. Very, very possible. First order change is I am struggling with setting a boundary. And so say this to your boss. Great. We love that. Love that you give a guidelines. That's second order change. That's first order change. Sorry. Second order change is, why do I struggle with setting the boundary to begin with? And if I can understand that, then I can change the system in which is around.
Yes.
That is what you cannot learn. And part of that is because there's no relational component, right? One of the things that we know is the number one predictor of therapeutic success is your relationship with your therapist, right? My relationship, for me to be able to say back to you, hey, let's go deeper within this. And for you to say to me, I don't like what you do this. And I can say, great, who do I remind you of?
Mm,
It's not happening the same way on social media. I'm not saying all social media therapists are bad. And technically, we are social media therapists. But I think you should be aware of what you're consuming. You should be aware of that person's credentials. And if the information doesn't make you feel good, or you get weird vibes, or it feels like it's too much about their personal life, or they're turning into influencers, right? You know what I mean? Like there's also a
yeah.
monetizing that happens.
Yeah.
You can see it. We have ads on this podcast. This is a free podcast. We make money, barely any, but at the end of the day, you consume, you are paying for this because you listen to an ad or you shuffle through it, which most people do. But right, you're paying for something, everything.
Yes.
But if there is not a way that you're paying for it directly, you're seeing that those social media therapists, they're unboxing something or they're getting something for free, right? They're showing it. There's a way that you're getting stuff for that.
Yes.
And so just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Anything you're looking at.
And that's why we love long form content. That's why we do
That's
a
why we're
podcast.
podcasters.
We've
Yeah.
listen, we've tried to do the
We
social
hated
media
it.
thing. It's so hard. It is so hard for us because it doesn't align with how I think we think about therapeutic topics. Like it doesn't allow for us to, talk about things deeper or talk about the nuances of things. And
Yeah.
that's where I think it gets hard. And listen, we're not shitting on social media therapists. Like there once again, there are things that are so helpful with social media therapists. And we understand that also of like, you want to build a business and you want to build, like, we
Yeah.
understand that. Um, but being conscious about it, I think, is really, really important, because there's some incredible social, and people can connect to social media therapists, and it can allow them to say, like, okay, I want to do the deeper work, or I want to get into therapy, or this is right. It can be kind of like a journey to doing something a little deeper. But we would just say, be aware of the fact that in social media and with social media messaging, it is not tailored to you, but you may try to tailor it to yourself so that you can make a change, so that you can make a quick change. And that might not always be helpful for you.
Yeah. So we started the Westchester Therapy Group's Instagram account started in 2014. The content that us and every other therapist on social media was putting up in 2014 was quotes.
Yes. Still doing it.
It's all we were doing.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so it's so interesting because nothing we had ever said was like 5 ways to cure your trauma, 3 ways to leave a narcissist, right? Like we weren't using social media. You weren't using these like therapy terms.
Right.
And now we have everyone walking around talking about gaslighting and all this different stuff that's often incorrectly used.
Right.
Narcissism, it's so over talked about, right?
Yeah.
Like, and with misinformation, and that's what's really hard. So then you get into people come into our office and they say, well, my mom's a narcissist. And I'm
Or
like,
they say, am I a narcissist?
yes, or everyone thinks they're a narcissist, or someone's a narcissist, or we're all fucking narcissists. And it doesn't leave for complexity of human beings.
Yes.
That's what we start missing. And then it also causes a further divide.
Yes.
Why do we all fucking hate each other? Why are we so activated by each other? Well, if everything is done in dichotomous black and white thinking, you're going to get that.
Yes. All right. What else we got? Dealer's choice.
Okay. Dealer's choice. Does that mean I get to choose? Because we never have really figured this out. All right.
We don't know who the dealer is.
Who is the dealer?
Whoa.
Why is it so? Oh, wait, you did this one. How do I avoid getting overwhelmed by all the scary health info out there? That is true, right? It was huge during COVID. Health anxiety was up. It is really scary. So many people wrote in about parenting. This is a big thing with postpartum. People talk about birth trauma, right? Then you're like, oh my God, is this going to happen to me? It's really hard to not get in your head about it. So one, I would say if you are not able to read information and not get totally overly freaked out, you're going to have to take a tiny bit of break until you figure out what's going on, right? Where is your fears coming from? Because the other thing we want to talk about is we can sit here and be like, oh, like, because if you're having health OCD, it has to be dealt with differently than just like, oh, you're going to be fine.
Right.
Right. Healthy OCD is like a whole other fucking thing that you need to see like an OCD therapist, and you look at the language a different way. So I think the thing is how much time is it consuming for you? What's happening for you when you read it? And it's not about avoiding getting overwhelmed. It's why are you getting so overwhelmed, right? Like what comes up for you? Because the world is scary.
Yeah.
There's so much shit that can happen every single day.
Yeah.
We get that.
It's to piggyback off of that, to use a grad school term. Someone also said all the bad news. I just had a baby, and sometimes I feel like I brought him into a bad world. All of the bad stuff is what's going to be on the news. So you're right? Like all of the bad stuff is on the news, right? We very rarely get a piece about, like a dolphin that, can high five us. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
A love story, an uncommon love story between a dolphin and a squirrel. Well, I think the other thing is like, okay, once again, reminder, there didn't used to be 24-hour media. You used to get your news, right? The New York Times original thing is like all the news fits in print, right? So it used to be that you got the news once a day in the morning in a newspaper. So you didn't fit every goddamn dumb thing in there. We are so overloaded with information. So that might mean I don't want to get my news from social media. Maybe I want to use one local source. Maybe I have to be aware of what it's like to read this, right? For me, like you read these stories about like kids and abuse. I cannot read this.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can do to help those kids. Social services are already helping them. right? I can be aware. I already know I'm trained to look for signs of understanding abuse, but I can't read this entire story. I have to know that for myself. It's
Mhm.
too much for me.
Go ahead. I didn't wanna
I would say,
interrupt you.
and just we can't control everything, right? How much time do you spend consumed to the news with the Middle East? I live in Chester Springs, Pennsylvania, right? If I we talked about this, we had a great episode about like social media and trauma. If I sit there and traumatize myself all the time, it's not going to do anything for anyone.
Right. How are you gonna be able to help and support other people?
Yes.
Um, it's funny, there's a phenomenon that happens when you move out of Philadelphia. I live in Philadelphia, and my friends, I was just at dinner with some friends. One of my friends is moving out of Philly, and we were talking about how when people move out of Philly and they start to read the news about Philly, they start to see Philly as this like really terrifying, like dangerous place.
Yeah.
And when you live in Philly and you read the news, I mean, you're still like, okay, I got to be aware, but it doesn't feel as scary unless there are traumatizing things that have happened to you or
Yeah.
you've experienced things. Um, but we've talked about how when you move out, you start to view Philly in a way that you weren't able to view it when you were there because you were experiencing it. And so it starts to become something bigger.
Hmm.
And so kind of like you were saying, I would say what is it doing for you to like read the news? I try to stay away from the news because of
Yeah.
how sensitive I stay informed. At the same time, I don't leave the news on. My parents were always people who just watch the news 24/7.
Same.
It's just on TV.
Dude, my parents have CNN like basically as a fucking home screen for their
Always.
living room.
It's like my Bravo.
Uh, or like HGTV or
Right.
like when mine used to be like Food Network. You know, it's so funny, but like it is funny. So this weekend, we took Millie into the city.
Yeah.
We had an event Sunday morning in the city. So then we're like, oh well, Aaron and I were like, we'll take Millie to the Phillies game. Aaron and Millie will take the train in and take the subway, meet me in South Philly, and then we'll go to the stadiums, right? It was the first time Millie ever rode the train and the subway, and a few different people were like, "Oh, you like nervous about her taking the subway?" And I was like, "I just fucking take the subway every day."
Right.
Um, although you should know that she did walk into the subway and she said, "It smells like pee pee."
I mean, it does. That's not
And Aaron
wrong.
was like, "It does in fact smell like pee pee. That is actually pee pee, Millie. It's why we don't touch anything." And then she did at home. We talk a lot about cleaning up trash from the environment. If you see trash, you pick it up. We forgot to tell her you don't do that in Philadelphia.
Right. It's a little different when you're
So
in
she did
Philly.
immediately pick up a dirty cigarette from the group. I said,
That
"Well, at
was
least it wasn't a
nice.
syringe.
Right. It could have been way worse.
That could have been worse."
I had a syringe right outside my house the
Yeah.
other day. And then the next day I had a $50 bill right outside my house. Do you think there's a drug deal going on right outside my house?
Yeah, it's that bench you put outside. You literally have invited people into your space with that, okay? You're
It's
gonna have to
such,
take some responsibility. You
it's
put
a,
seating outside.
it's not by the bench, which is interesting. It's like by my stoop,
You're
which was
sitting at your
interesting.
stoop. Yeah.
Right. But listen, I was
Was it a
happy.
counterfeit 50? Like, did you check it?
It's in my wallet, so I'm not sure.
I'd like to know.
I'll let you know.
That's fascinating. Yeah,
I
I'm
know. It
interested
was
in that.
really exciting.
Um, okay, so that's the deal, right? Listen, it's not one exact thing to do, but what we're asking for each person listening to this is to be very conscious about what you're consuming and make up a plan of how you're going to do that before it takes over with a panic attack. How much time am I spending on social media? What accounts am I looking at? Do I really need to take a purge of my accounts? You can write down, you don't have to follow everyone. Write down an account that you like. You can go check on it every once in a while if that feels better for you. So, coming up with some plan, some routine, and some boundaries around social media.
Beautiful. You ready for Dear Em and Jen?
I'm ready.
Okay. Dear Em and Jen, I'm a new mom to a now 2 month old and find myself really struggling with comparing my daughter to other kids and ideals on social media. I work in the maternal newborn health world, so I know logically that one, everything we do matters for infant development, and two, there's a wide range of normal infant development, and three, education within healthcare is severely lacking, making it necessary to supplement with other materials. I identify as a pretty health literate and don't subscribe to momfluencers, but still feel overwhelmed by the amount of information. Incorporating it into our routines and variety of experiences comparing my baby to other babies. How can I better take in all this information without feeling the anxiety that I'm not doing enough for my child? I can already see that this is becoming a toxic trait when she's older if I'm constantly trying to push her. I've never wanted or imagined I'd become a tiger mom, but I can already feel it happening. It's less to do with wanting a perfect daughter than it is that I don't want to fail as her mom. Even though it's more about me than her, how do I stop myself so I don't impact her when she's older?
So, the one thing I want to say is you're 2 months postpartum as a new mom. It sounds like your first child, right? Yes, new mom. Listen, everything you're feeling is complete normal. But the other thing is it's so scary 8 weeks in that you're just like, I can't fuck this up. I got to do good. And so we're doing this thing, and it's so amazing that you want to take care of your daughter and give her the self. But the number one thing your child needs is a mom that takes care of her first. So if you miss to give her the black and white photo above the frickin' play chair, she is going to be okay. So you're right. It really matters what we do when we kids are infants, but also it really matters how we take care of ourselves and the mindset that we're going into things with. Because you're right, there is a way this could hurt her when she's older. Because if you hold yourself to such a ridiculously high and unfair standard, that's going to be modeled for her.
Mm.
So, what does good enough parenting look like? What does it look like to make sure your child is fed and loved and sleeps and has clean diapers and gets stimulation, right? Your child does not need to do their ABCs by 6 months old. I remember freaking out. Millie never crawled. She just never crawled. She just wasn't into it.
Wow.
And I freaked the fuck out because I had this. My nephew is 3 weeks younger than Millie. Boys typically develop physically like faster than girls do. And he was just doing everything ahead of her. It was so hard to not compare because also I was a new mom. This was my sister-in-law's third boy. So I'm like, she's such a better mom than me. I don't know what I'm doing. This is her third kid. She's such a fucking pro. And it's so hard to not compare. So then you look online to help yourself and you just feel worse. So here's what I would say. One, I'm a big fan of books over media. Read a book. There's great developmental books out there for kids. What's normal developmental range? Because you're right, it's such a huge range that it's like there's always going to be someone behind or in front of you. So I want you to think about what are the values that you want to give your child? Who do you want your child to be? How do you want to raise them? What's the point of all this for you? And so if they're not giggling yet, they're just farting, that's normal at 2 months postpartum. But the number one thing you can do in the next year is just work on you. Work on your connection to that baby. Be there, get lots of skin to skin, snuggle up, enjoy this part. You're going to be okay, and so is your kid.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Shrink Chicks.
We'll see you back here next week for another session.
In the meantime, if you want a question answered or a topic discussed, follow us on Instagram at ShrinkChicks. And if you're looking to get connected with a therapist like us to start or continue your therapeutic journey, visit thetherapygroup.com. Just fill out a contact form on our website, and we will personally match you with one of our amazing therapists. And for all of our therapists and group practice owners out there, we also offer group practice consulting.
And if you're looking to support yourself further and support our show, check out our amazing merch options at shrinkchicks.com/merch and our Know Yourself, Grow Yourself journal on Amazon. Also, if you'd be so kind, we'd love a rating review and for you to share with a friend or an enemy or a mother-in-law, honestly, whoever needs it, so that we can keep reaching more people on our mission to bring mental health topics to your ears every week.
Thanks for being here with us. And don't forget to grow yourself. You got to know yourself.